right, welcome back. Sock Talk Week 10. Week nine's in the books. We got some crazy trades coming up. We got matchup previews. We got power rankings. We even have questions. Adam, anything to add there?
It's crazy how fast the season is going. Gonna go hit the links later, but that will be after the news.
All right.
All right, so we're back with the news. Two trades to go over, and then not too many injuries, but a few we'll talk about. The first trade obviously involved yourself, where you got a 2025 first round pick from Zach for David Montgomery. What was going through your brain?
Well, Montgomery, he's he was slightly underperforming to I think what I expected. He had a couple big weeks early in the year, but really hasn't impressed me since then. I thought, hey, I'm a bad team. Odds are Montgomery might not even have a roster spot next year, depending on who he signs with and what his role would be. So I just sent him to a team like Zach, who was playing me but needed a running back. I think I sold about as high as the price could go. So we get a pick for the future, and the short War Eagles career of David Montgomery comes to an end.
Yeah, I do like the deal for you. Getting the first for a player that probably wouldn't be super relevant by the time you're actually competitive, I think definitely makes sense. Um, and I think it also makes sense for Zach. I don't think Montgomery's like a super solid um, like running back. I think he has his ups and downs. Will have good weeks, but he will kind of consistently get you like 8-ish points with the upside of 20. So I think it's like a flex option, especially with how banged up and last week with all the bye weeks, how tough it was for Zach to just get a starting lineup of players actually playing in games out there. I think the trade makes sense. The picks really far down the line, so I do like this one for both sides. And then just before filming this, we got Steve sending Travis Kelce to Ethan and getting in return TJ Hawkinson, Matt's 2023 second, and Jasmus's 2024 second.
It's an interesting deal. I don't hate the return for Kelsey. I mean, Matt's 2023 second is probably pick 13, so to consider, if this draft class is as deep as we all think it is, then I think it's almost a first. Um, it is kind of surprising. Steve, I think, has made his intentions known that he is a seller now, which we can talk about more later when we have a couple questions about it. I don't know. Hawkinson is just kind of inconsistent on a new team. I think we'll have to see how it plays out. Also, I don't think he's as young as people think. I think he's like 25, 26.
Yeah, he's 25, but that's still young for a tight end. You've seen these tight ends like Kelsey, Zach Ertz. A lot of these guys are still productive into their early 30s, so he could still easily have 6 years ahead of him of being productive. First game with the Vikings, so he played 91% of snaps, tied for the most he played all year. And that's still I guess learning the playbook, but they still put him out there. And he was targeted a lot, 9 targets, caught all 9 of them for 70 yards. So the usage was definitely there. It seems like Minnesota's definitely going to want to show why they traded all those picks to get him.
Yeah.
If you're going to give up all that for a player, you're going to use them. So obviously, I don't think he is or really ever will be Travis Kelce. So he's going to lose some production, but I see getting younger, and then the two firsts. It does look like he's trying to sell, so we'll wonder what other
Was it two firsts?
2 seconds.
2 seconds.
But yeah, 2 seconds. But we'll see what other moves Steve's makes in these upcoming days. But for both of these trades, they kind of look iffy in hindsight because both of you traded for that player at the start of the season. Steve gave up a first, a second, and Gallup for Kelsey, getting back Hawkinson in 2 seconds. Like, kind of losing that. You gave up, I think, a first and a second.
And Jalen Rager, can't forget Jalen
And
Rager.
Rager for Montgomery. Only got a first back, so kind of just lost a second for 9-ish weeks of David Montgomery. And I don't know. They're not horrible losses. It's not like you had to lose a ton of value, but both lost value on your investment earlier in the season.
Yeah, that's a fair assessment.
And then for the injuries, Romeo Dobbs, whatever it is still, he's going to be out like 4 to 6 weeks. Hurts the young James team. He was kind of boom or bust, it kind of felt like. He'd have some big weeks and then also some smaller weeks, but for a rookie receiver, that obviously hurts.
Yeah, I think that Dobbs in the long term will be fine from this injury as long as it's not a recurring one. It just does suck that pretty much Dobbs is going to be out until James would be in the playoffs at the minimum, and who knows if he'll be ready. They say 4 to 6 for this, but it could be even longer, depending on how the Packers feel.
Yeah, Damian Harris was out, but that was just, I was kind of surprised, but I think it was just illness or something. So he should be good to go next week. Keenan Allen also got re-aggravated his hamstring over the bye week. Kind of almost looking like a lost season for Keenan so far. I think he has 13 points on the year. Not really what you expect when you have Keenan Allen on your roster. We'll see if he does come back and starts producing.
I still find it amazing that Keenan Allen has missed more games than Brian Robinson, who was shot.
Yeah, him and Michael Thomas, who was also just basically declared out for the year. I think he had a toe dislocation that required surgery. Both of them, it's like pretty lost seasons on what doesn't, on the surface, sound like a crazy injury. Just a pulled hamstring and a toe dislocation.
Yeah.
I guess they proved to be a little more serious than was thought on. Brandon Cooks, he also missed the Thursday night game due to injury, kind of sitting out.
In the same way Kadarius Toney was injured.
Yeah, so we'll see if this is something that reoccurs. If is Cooks going to get back out there and continue to play? Was he just like showing his frustration this 1 week? Game was 2 days after the trade deadline. Will he hold out, kind of miss some more time? And then I think the other thing to kind of monitor is we just saw with the Colts, they fired their coach, brought in Jeff Saturday, who I saw had like a 3-7 record coaching high school football.
I also saw that nobody on the Colts coaching staff knows how to call plays at an NFL level, so that's going to be interesting.
It kind of seems like they're admitting that this season's over and going to kind of move on, and I wonder if that means that we don't see Jonathan Taylor for the rest of the year. Being banged up, the ankle sprain, when he came back, didn't look 100%. Will they just be like, we want our stud running back just healthy for next year when we think we can be competitive, and let's just let him heal up? Kind of like what we've also seen with the Lions and DeAndre Swift. Missed like 4 games, has been very slowly put back in. They know they're not competing. Why hurt a future asset that's like going to be really valuable to your team? So I think that's something to monitor with Swift, who we're seeing sort of come back, and then Taylor, who missed. Will he miss more time? Will he miss the whole year?
Yeah, frustrating year for the Colts. I think time and time again they're proving that when you need a quarterback, you shouldn't just try to get 40-year-olds who are on their retirement tour.
Unless you're the Rams.
Unless you're the Rams.
Then you win a Super Bowl.
I don't know. I think Matt Stafford is a little better than Phillip Rivers and Matt Ryan.
Yeah, that's fair. But, I don't know. It'll be interesting to see. But I think that pretty much wraps up the news. And then we'll get into power rankings.
Yeah.
Welcome back to the Power Rankings. We all know where we start, and that is with Matt at 12. 2-7, 69 points, so that's cool.
Nice.
Nice, Matt. Tyler Algier, the bright spot, another solid game, even with Patterson being back. So I think that is a decent look at the future there.
He's bad.
Yeah, James Robinson also had a pretty good game. Got a few carries and some targets. On Matt's bench, it is funny when Matt is this bad of a team and still making the wrong start-sit decisions. You got like 8 guys, just put them in the lineup. But yeah, let's just move on from that. 11, I got Cherry. Cherry, as Bobby said, this team sucks. Besides Kenneth Walker. Kenneth Walker is really good.
You're welcome.
Like I've seen some talk of him possibly being like a dynasty RB1. I don't think he had 3 catches this game. I think on the year he's getting like 1 to 2-ish, but just running the ball. Last game, 109 yards, 2 touchdowns, 3 catches for 20 yards. He is finding the end zone and going for like over 100 every single game. The rest of the team, though, not great. I saw a funny like Jamal Williams post where they showed all of his runs and everyone was like between the hashes. He just runs like halfback dive just constantly, but then that's how he vultures his touchdown. So yeah, man, Cherry he's tanking. So he's gonna lose.
Yep.
10.
Aye.
The other tank team. Another not great week. Failed to break 100 this week.
First time in a while. I'll put it at that. Let's not blow us out of proportion.
That is true. Michael Carter put up 15. Had a pretty good game on the ground with a touchdown. Looks like he's going to be splitting with James Robinson. So tough to kind of trust to start every week there. And Singletary had a pretty poor performance too, but the whole Bills kind of offense did. Jets defense kind of gave him fits. Another guy who struggled was obviously Gabe Davis, who got hit in the chest and dropped it. And I think I saw something, and I think this is the most true Gabe Davis statement I've ever heard. He's just fancy MVS of just, yeah, he might have a 70-yard touchdown and look really good, and if not, he'll just drop a few balls and kind of be inefficient. That's my Gabe Davis take that I stole from somebody else. But Rondell Moore, he's been getting targeted a lot. Looked pretty good over these past few weeks. I think the just big question there is kind of how do those targets get split around when Marquise Brown gets healthy and then Hopkins there. I think that could affect all of them because Marquise Brown was having a phenomenal year before the injury. Hopkins has looked phenomenal since he came back, and then Rondell Moore kind of been eating in the slot. Will Hopkins get pushed in the slot? Will Marquise get pushed into the slot? What will be like the 2 wide receiver sets there when they're all healthy? And how will those targets go? Still have like, I think, 4 weeks until Hollywood's back, but that's something to look forward to. Kind of be concerned for all 3 of those guys in the future.
Yeah, I'd have to agree there.
But the good thing is Terrace apparently back.
He's back. It was worth it. A trade that me and Adam did that wasn't completely lopsided.
Yep. So now, like, the real power ranking.
Shut up, nerd.
9, I got Steve. Steve got the win this week. Broke 100. I mean, Lockett had a decent game, 17 points. Obviously, Travis Kelce, who is now no longer on his team, had a really big week. And Patterson had a pretty big week, too. Seems like he's blowing it up, so he might join those bottom 4 teams. Well, he already is. You know what I mean?
I could be in single digits next week if I win, so that'd be interesting.
Maybe. He'd still have another win over you.
We'll see. Then I play him again in 2 weeks.
Yeah. Steve, I don't know if he should blow it up. What I'm looking at, like he said, he does have you in 2 weeks, and the only team that you've beat is Matt. So
who he just played.
he should be able to get 2 more wins there, be at 6. If we're looking at like upcoming schedule, I have Jasmus and Griff coming up. Like I could easily lose those games. Ethan has Griff this week.
And Jasmine's coming up.
Yeah, I think James has like Jasmus like 2 times coming up or something. So like
It's like Jasmine's twice, but there's a Matt in the middle of it.
yeah, I was looking at the schedule kind of randomly guessing, and it was still like one team had 8 wins and the other 3 had 7, and it all comes down to points for, which if we're ranking those, obviously the 4 teams in my division, Ethan's in first, Steve in second, me closely behind, and then James pretty close behind there too. So if it comes down to a tiebreaker, that would be the the rankings. So I don't think Steve should blow it up. Everyone will probably be gone by the time this video comes out, so
Yeah.
will be interesting.
This is being recorded on Tuesday, and like how it always goes every single week, there will be like 4 trades made the second we stop recording.
Yeah. But I don't know. I don't think his team is the best ever, but I also don't think it's the worst.
That's a fair statement. I also had Steve at 9 in my little ranking.
Number 8, I have Ethan. Ethan, he's just so kind of beat up.
I almost feel bad.
Yeah. I mean, ETN's obviously looked amazing. Juju's been playing well. Hawkinson, who played well, but now is gone, and now he has Kelsey, so I guess this definitely helps this team. But Chubb on bye, Amari on bye, Chase hurt, Javante hurt. When you're missing those guys, it's tough to get a win, and he kept it really close.
It was like 1 point or something like that.
Beat predicts White could take over Tampa Bay backfield.
Interesting. That's
Nice.
not the power rankings.
Saw a tweet that Fournette was upset with playing time. Changing of the guard. But, yeah, I think Ethan is definitely a good team, and I still kind of think he can get into the playoffs. He's just that game behind now, but like I said, I think all 4 teams are going to be really close going into the end of the year.
Yeah. I also had Ethan at 8. Like I said, kind of feel bad. His team, he's got unlucky in his matchups, and his team is just on the IR. But we'll see how it goes these last 5 weeks of the season.
Yeah.
It's crazy.
Number 7, we have Zach. Zach had a show this week, put up 144 points, and that was starting E. Moore, who
Hasn't gotten points in 4 weeks?
yeah, Zach stopped starting E. Moore.
Zach, yeah, I swear he's not gonna play. I
guess he had to. I think he probably should have started someone else, but he needed to start 3 receivers, and his 2 flexes were running back and a tight end. He did leave Cole Kmet on the bench, who had 2 touchdowns and was targeted pretty heavily. 22 points, but obviously the talk of the town here is Joe Mixon beat the Panthers, 5 touchdowns.
Yeah, we're done.
Top 10
We've all
points
heard
ever.
it. We all heard it. We all know. Let's move on. I also had Zach at 7. Who's 6?
6 is James.
We are right now 7 for 7 with matching each other.
James got the very close win. This was also tied for the 5th closest game of all time with 0.8 points. He was carried by Christian Kirk. McCole Hardman had another big game. He's getting used in like I don't even know, just like short screens, and they're like finding space for him, which has been working. Obviously,
Where was this earlier this season?
I don't even know how it's here now. I wonder if like Tony, as he gets more like acclimated to the offense, will he start taking some of that like role? It'll kind of be interesting to see what happens. Tony instead had 2 catches for 12 yards, so the Kadarius Tony breakout we've all been waiting for. And then, yeah, obviously Pierce good, 139 rushing yards. And then, like I just said, the Fournette, it's kind of iffy to see what'll happen there. but he does also have Mahomes, put up 34. Another team going to be fighting for that playoff spot. He sits in third right now, a win above Ethan and Steve. I think it'll be a interesting fight for the playoffs.
Definitely. If Steve blows it up like he's been obviously alluding to very recently, it opens the door for maybe James to be a buyer, say, hey, one other team in my division is getting worse. Ethan's team is hurt. Let's hope that if we can bang out or rattle off a few wins, like even if you say, if my only two losses of the year are Jasmus, like you got to win every other game.
Yeah, I think if he wins 3 out of the next 5, I think he's in for sure. I think if really any of these teams win 3 or 4 of these remaining games, they're going to get in. I could see a lot of these teams going 2-3, 3-2, and I think that's basically what it's going to come down to. Going into number 5, I have Evan.
We differed.
Yeah, Evan only put up 102 this week, but he was facing Cherry, so he still got the win. Waddle had another solid game where he caught another touchdown. That whole passing offense has kind of been just lights out recently. Tyreek Hill is on pace for like 2,000 receiving yards. Waddle having a great year on his own too.
I saw an interesting stat where it was like, obviously Tyreek Hill has the receiving yards, but I think he only got his third touchdown this week, where like Waddle's been the guy where he's getting not as many yards, but the touchdowns.
Yeah, I saw something that his like expected fantasy points are a lot lower than what he's actually scoring, so there is some case that like regression could hit and he could kind of maybe instead of getting these like 20 high teen point games, maybe get more like mid-teen point games, but he's been so efficient, so explosive. I could definitely see this keeping up too. This game, I think still the craziest thing is that ref took out like Harrison Smith or whatever.
Yeah.
Curtis Samuel catches it, no one touches him, he rolls into the end zone. If that ref doesn't take out the player and he breaks up that pass, Cherry wins this game. That's it was like a 30, 40-yard pass plus the touchdown and the catch. That's like
11 points.
11-point swing. And I think that would have been just enough to make this like a 0.4 win for Cherry. So that was a big play.
Referees had Anteater's money line.
Yeah, that's what I'm saying. But yeah, that did mean Curtis Samuel had a pretty good week. 17 points, 3 catches, 65 yards, and a touchdown. Most came on that big play. Evan still got that game lead above Zach. Zach did scoring like 40 more points than him. Did take like a 40, 50-point lead in the points for standings if it comes down to a tie at the end of the year. But like Evan's spot right now.
Yeah, I think he's in a decent spot, and I did have him above you at 4. So I think if Evan wins this week against Zach, he'll be 2 games up. Plus, I think he has Zach in points as well.
No, Zach has him.
Or Zach has him in points. All right, so I think if Evan wins this matchup against Zach this week, I think he's
in a very good spot.
A very good spot to get that third playoff spot in our division.
Yeah, I had myself at 4. I only put up 84 this week, but I don't think that's a true representation of my team. I had 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8 players on bye. So when you missing that many players,
it's like 80% of your roster.
1, 2, 3, 4, 5 of them were starters.
So
too.
50% of your starting roster was.
Yeah, I wasn't expecting a win this week. I wasn't expecting much. Got good showing out of Goddard. He finally scored. He was like tight end 6 on the year before this without a touchdown, or with like 1 touchdown. The touchdowns start coming, I definitely see him having a pretty big year. But other than that, yeah, my team was not great players, and they didn't play great. DJ Moore had a bad week, so the PJ Walker magic is done, apparently.
Now we'll find out Thursday.
And then, I think you kind of just got to ignore this week for me. And then see how I look next week.
Yeah, that's fair. I did have you at 5 because again, I wasn't looking at who you played. I was looking at he only got like 80 and Evan got 100. Let's just throw Evan up there.
I think my 80 with nobody. Evan was missing a few guys. He was missing Zeke, Melvin Gordon, and Judy. But I think this was still like most of Evan's good players were playing that are healthy.
Yeah.
And he still only put up 100. So I think that was why I kind of thought it hurt that team more than like mine, where I was starting a ton of like guys that I never want to be starting.
Yeah.
Number 3, I have Trevor. Trevor had a very week. He only put up 110, but with Taylor out, he was forced to start Henderson at RB, which isn't the best case scenario and could definitely be a question mark if, like we talked about, Jonathan Taylor's out for an extended period of time the whole year. Who's going to be that RB2 role for him? We'll see if he goes out, makes a trade, tries to acquire somebody. Because right now it's like Derrick Henry and then kind of what else if Taylor's out. But other than that, yeah, the receivers, no one really stood out, but they all did enough. They all put up around those like 10 to 15 points, and that was good enough to beat me, who put up like the worst week or second worst week this week. So got the win.
Yeah, did enough to get the win. Stays at number 3.
2. You could go.
I was going to say. I wonder what order you have these last 2 teams in.
Yeah, we got Griff and then Jasmus. They went head to head. Griff, for a second, it looked like he was going to have him. Then Fields dropped 42, put up 178 rushing yards to his 123 passing yards, 4 total TDs, 1 on the ground. I think this was the most rushing yards in a regular season game by a quarterback ever, second to like Kaepernick in the NFC Championship game, I think it was.
I think so.
And then obviously Cooper Kupp had a pretty big game.
Coop.
Cooper Coop. But other than that, like Jasmus's team, Eckler had the 2 touchdowns and Tyreek Hill did Tyreek Hill things. But wait, that's Jasmus's team. We're talking about them both at once.
Yeah.
Jasmus had, other than that, like his bench didn't provide much value besides Kenny Drake, who I guess had 24 last night.
I didn't even realize.
Either did I, but yeah, Jasmus is really good. I think not having Mark Andrews obviously hurt. Griff this week having to go to Will Disley.
This is going to suck to edit. Holy shit.
Just put 2 and 1 at the same time.
Yeah, I guess I have to.
We're talking about, but just put them there. This is a conjoined 2 and 1. They're both good. They're both first in their division. Jefferson had a huge week, 115 yards and a touchdown. They're both good teams.
First time Jefferson scored in a millennia.
Yeah, that is true. But yeah, Griff, clear 2, I think. Jasmus, clear 1. And then I do have some playoff stuff to talk about.
Oh, boy.
Some, like, clinching elimination scenarios.
Am I eliminated yet?
If Jasmus wins this week, which means he would beat me, and then James, who's facing Cherry, also loses, Jasmus clinches the first round bye in our division.
Wow.
Already.
Is he pretty much clinched playoff-wise?
Yeah.
Okay.
Well, I think technically not if he loses out and then, like, I win most of mine. There is a way where he could still miss the playoffs, but also with a win, my loss and that loss, he clinches a first-round bye. So, with a win, he'd obviously also clinch the playoffs.
Yeah.
So, Matt would be eliminated if James, with a loss this week, and if James and Ethan also win. I don't think Matt's going to make it even if those don't happen, but he would be eliminated there. And then for you and Cherry, if you lose this week, you both have one possible path to the playoffs, and that would be
winning out
after this week, certain teams losing to certain teams where you'd end with a tied record and then you'd have to make up like 200 points.
All right, time to bust out the old 300-point week.
So those bottom three teams obviously not looking great for your playoff chances. Jasmus, if it's not this week, it's going to be the next week where he's going to get that number one bye. All the rest of the teams, still big shuffle, still a fight for the 1 seed in your division, still a fight for all the playoff spots in both of these divisions, but that's kind of where we're sitting at with the playoff picture right now.
All right, so stop asking us questions about who we think the playoff teams are. Let's get on to matchup previews. Matchup previews. We're here. Trying to say something different than all right, we're back. I'd say that a lot. Last week, we had 3 people. We had myself, we had Bobby, we have Adam. To no one's surprise, Adam and I went 3-3 again. We both went 2-1 in our own predictions, and 1-2 in matches we were forced to take. Bobby ties the all-time record for most or for best guesses by a guest with 5-1, tying James.
And his one that he had off was a 0.8, decided by 0.8 points.
You can't get much better than that. Let's just hop into it. We tied again. I have the first pick.
I do think this is a pretty gross, slate.
Yeah. It's...
Obviously, the first one you're picking is Trevor Matt.
Yeah, no, it's Trevor Matt.
But I think besides that, there's not too many just, set it and forget it picks. A lot of gross games here.
I am going to change the style up of how I do these a little bit. As we mentioned last week, Adam and I finished a whole spreadsheet that was everyone's record against each other, point differential, stuff I used to add in the old matchup previews. Kind of decided to bring them back, really use them appropriately. So my fun fact for this match is that it has been 3 years since Matt scored 100 points against Trevor. The last time he did it was week 9 in 2019. Also, Matt has beat Trevor once. It was in 2018. And besides that, who cares? Trevor's going to win.
Yeah, I do also think it is interesting. This is the active biggest point differential in the SOC League at 319.58 points in favor of Trevor.
Yeah, it's kind of...
And I do agree that he probably expands that this week. But, no, Matt's got this.
All right, who do you take for your next matchup?
Oh, man. Yeah, this is where, I already think it's, I guess we just got to go with Jasmus versus me.
He's taking Jasmus.
And I'm taking Jasmus.
He's taking Jasmus. So Jasmus is 5-1 against you. It has been quite some time since you last beat him.
First year ever.
2018 was the last time you beat him. The point differential's only 155.72, so it's not like you're getting walloped. That being said,
Well,
we'll see at the end of this week. But yeah, I obviously would have taken Jasmus, but go Dragons.
I think I have a shot to, kind of compete. Saquon versus Houston should be a smash. Houston has the worst run defense I've ever seen, so I'm assuming Saquon has a good game. Then I have a ton of guys coming off bye, should be rested. Hopefully they have something kind of planned up, feeling healed up. I don't think I win. Why I picked Jasmus, but
it's doable.
I think it'll be a pretty close-ish game. Maybe I only lose by 20.
Yeah, that is close in the Jasmus realm. Next match I'm going to take, I didn't even think this was going to be here at this pick, but I'm taking the Crusade versus the Steamrollers. I I will be rocking with the Crusade, who are 4-2 all time against the Steamrollers, with a 77.24 point differential. The trend has gone James 1-3, then Cherry won the next two meetings, and now James won earlier this year. This is their second matchup this year. I'll be taking James. Adam, what do we think?
Yeah, I don't know. I think it's with the rumors that Rashad White is going to kind of get more work, and kind of seeing some like complaints out of Fournette about the lack of work. We'll see if he gets all that work now or not. Walker's been so dominant that I think he could have a big week. I think Claypool against Detroit, the Bears offense has put up like 30 points in their last 3 games each. Claypool getting more like used to their system, might get more involved. And James, I don't know if McCole Hardman's going to put up like 20 again, and I don't know if Mahomes against Jacksonville probably will put up 35 again, but I think I would pick James, but I think this will be a closer game, low scoring probably. I could see Cherry winning though.
That's fair. So our next matchup will be yours. What are we thinking here?
This is another tough one, but I'm going to go with Griff versus Ethan.
So Ethan, in his shorter career in the Sock League, never beaten Griff. A 259.98 point differential.
Second best, I think.
Second best. I think it went like Trevor, Matt, Griffin, Ethan, me, Zach until last week.
Yeah.
So who are you gonna take here?
I'm gonna go with Ethan. I think getting Travis Kelce will definitely help this team a lot. I think if Mark Andrews is on bye, Garrett Wilson's on a bye, Boyd is on a bye. Right now, Griff currently has KJ Hamler in the starting lineup, and I don't think that's something you normally want to see from a team. Like, I don't think the Broncos want KJ Hamler in their starting lineup. I think he's got some good matchups. I think ETN and Chubb, both Miami's defense has been horrible. Chubb could go off there. I think ETN could definitely have a big week against Kansas City. He's been on fire. So, and then Jefferson against Buffalo. Buffalo's defense they're kind of banged up, but I think Tre'Davious White is close to returning. So if he comes back, obviously who knows if he'll look like his old self, but with that on like a Jefferson, I think that could make his day a little bit rougher. Plus it's at Buffalo, Kirk on the road.
It's the game after 1 o'clock?
No, it is at 1 o'clock.
Oh, God, but it's 1 p.m. Kirk Cousins.
But it is 1 p.m. Kirk Cousins. But I don't know. I think this will be a really close matchup. I think this is a huge must-win game for Ethan. I also think it's a really important win for Griff. We know Trevor's going to win, so that would make it just a 1-game difference between Griff and Trevor for the bye. So I think this is an important game for both teams. I think Ethan will do it.
I also agree with you. I would have taken Ethan to win, obviously, himself with Griffin, which isn't exactly the worst thing in the world. That being said, like you said, Hamler on a bye. Maybe Griffin makes some moves prior to this week. Maybe try and get a decent...
As talked about moving, Jamo. So we'll see if he goes and gets another piece to fit in this week. But right now, I just think the buys might be a little too much to overcome.
All right. The next matchup I will take, which will be my last pick. There's two. It's a tough one. I'm going to take the Anteaters versus What Would Jones Drew. Probably the matchup of the week.
It is 100% the matchup of the week.
It's very close.
They talk about how they were a rivalry, and the stats prove it. This is the closest rivalry in the league.
Yeah, so Evan has a 4-3 leading record. There's only a 4.14 point differential in between them in favor of Zach. So if Evan wins by more than 4.14 points, he flips it to his side. This is the second of 3 of their matchups this year. They will play again in 2 weeks. I'm taking the Anteaters. I'm riding with the Anteaters.
Evan did win the first game by 1.84 points.
Yeah.
Super close one.
Mixed on a bye. McCaffrey coming back is a little more scary. We'll see. I just like Evan's team coming into this week.
Yeah, I think Evan has a lot of good matchups. I think the question here for Evan is that RB2 role. Zeke's currently in there. He's still questionable to play. They think he will, but will they kind of be limited? Will they lean more on Pollard? I think that would make Zeke a little more touchdown dependent, but that's kind of the same thing if he goes with like a Melvin Gordon or a
Dontrell Hilliard.
Yeah. So it's going to be relying on the TD. I think McCaffrey will probably go off. I think this is a good spot for Montgomery to have a good game against a poor Detroit defense. Zach going to Goff is a little bit concerning as Goff's definitely cooled down after his really hot start. But I think Zach will probably go to Donovan Peoples-Jones, and then if Keenan Allen's healthy, he could definitely put them in kind of as like a flex option.
Okay, but where does Emore fit in?
Emore's on a bye, so we don't need to worry about Zach putting an Emore against 0.
Thank God.
So that makes me feel a little more confident in Zach. I think this is the most must-win game of the year for Zach. I think
Absolutely.
If Zach loses this one, not out of the playoffs yet,
Definitely
but
harder.
makes the road a lot harder. On the flip side, pretty much must-win for Evan. They'd be tied up going into these last 4 weeks. Zach would have the points on him.
They would play again.
They would play again, which would make that matchup even bigger. But I think this is a huge matchup for both teams. We'll have playoff environment for this matchup right here.
Absolutely.
And I think Zach could do it, but I think kind of like their first matchup this year could be decided by 2-3 points.
Which also would make the point differential even closer,
Even
if
closer.
Evan wins. All right, and that leaves your last matchup, War Eagles, Cape Cod Cranberries. This is the first of 2 matchups between us, and this is also the first time I'm playing Steve ever. Really like Hurts versus Washington. Also, it's gonna be when you make your pick here. Remember, I'm selling, Steve's selling.
Who will have less assets
Who
by
will
the time
have
they
less
play.
by the time it hits Sunday at 1?
I know. I think looking at this matchup right now, it might have been picked a little bit earlier. And I'm still going to go with what the matchup is right now in case nothing does change. And I'm going to lean Steve. So I'm taking Steve in this matchup.
Start trading, bro.
My fear is, Aaron Jones could be gone. Dalvin Cook could be gone. Patterson, his whole team could be gone, and he could look horrible. The same thing with you, though.
Yeah.
Debo could be gone. Singletary could be gone. You're starting Taysom Hill,
Hey, he scored like 41 week, right?
DeAndre Carter again. I don't.
We don't know. Well, hold on. If Keenan's out, but then again, if Cook stays out, maybe I go Dorsett. Maybe I go
Congrats,
Khalif Raymond if Josh Reynolds is out again.
These are not good options, but
if they get me like 9 points, I'm happy with it.
I'm just saying. I think this is going to be a who knows what this matchup will be when Sunday rolls around. So I guess I'll go with Steve because as of right now, he has the better players on his team.
We'll check back in 25 minutes. That pretty much wraps up wrap-up previews. Let's head over to League from the Questions. I'm not saying all right, welcome back, but we are here at questions around the league. One of the most important questions we have this week comes from Steve, and it's the price from Elijah Moore.
Acres. It's
Acres.
acres for sure.
Yeah. All right, next up, we have a question from James, kind of a two-part question. He asks, are the Cape Cod cranberries spiraling, and if yes, how does this affect the Crusade playoff chances? Doesn't hurt.
Yeah, I don't think the trade today was horrendous. I think it obviously hurt Steve's chances of winning. We'll see what other trades happen, but I think him just getting rid of all of his best players right now might not be the best move, as he isn't necessarily like young anywhere, so it's not like, oh, I could give it over to the young guys.
Yeah, it's more like I can give it over to the less good older guys.
Yeah, and I still think he has a decent shot to make the playoffs. Has you twice, should be 2 wins. Um, let's
He
see.
does have a Jasmus matchup in there.
Yeah, then he has Zach, so that'll be an interesting one that he could win. Then you again. Then Ethan, so that's like I mean, you win that one. It's like that could be the difference between him and Ethan getting in, and then he ends the year with Jasmus, which will obviously be a tough game to try to win. But I think, yeah, if he could beat you twice and then can get one versus Zach or ideally Ethan, he's sitting at 7 wins, and I think that could be good enough to be tied to get into the playoffs. So I don't think he necessarily has to sell right now, but who knows what he'll do. And then I think if he does sell, it obviously helps James. It makes those last race for the last 2 spots down to 3 teams instead of 4. And I still don't know who's going to win. I think every team's going to be at about 7-8, and it'll come down to some ties or point differential or who got the big win or the loss they shouldn't have. Because you'll mark like, okay, yeah, James versus Matt down as a win for James. But if somehow Matt comes out, upsets him there, or like me versus Jasmus this week, it's like, yeah, probably going to lose this one. If I could upset Jasmus, that's going to be the difference of what are the teams that get in the playoffs and the ones that miss.
Absolutely. You can even bookmark other matchups like Zach losing to Matt. If Zach misses the playoffs by a game.
Ethan, when he lost to Matt.
Ethan, when he lost to Matt. If he missed the playoffs by a game. Other teams where games that you probably should have won, even, I mean, with how Evan and Zach play, if, say, Zach ends up missing the game by one, you can even say, I lost what? By 1.5 points to Evan week 5. And
yeah.
So I think it's
this game was a perfect example. Ethan versus James. Like it could come down to
a catch.
Yeah. Anything. It's the playoffs are wide open in our division. I still think it's kind of more Trevor and Griff fighting for the bye, and then Zach and Evan fighting for that last playoff spot, than those 3 fighting for the last playoff spot and Griff set in stone with a bye. Who knows what could happen though?
Yeah. So kind of to build off that, we saw a trade from Steve earlier today, and Evan asked the question, who do you think should be buyers with the trade deadline coming up in, I think, 2 weeks, and who do you think should sell?
I mean, the teams I think should sell: Matt,
Okay.
you,
Yeah.
and Cherry.
Okay.
But I think the teams that should be buying are basically everybody else, maybe. Like obviously, I think it depends on the team and I don't think buying necessarily means going all in, being like, I'm going to trade all of my picks and young guys for like 2 27-year-old running backs. But I think like, trading a third for this like flex running back, trading a second for this guy that might put up like 15 in my RB2 spot, trading like a second for this tight end that I could play this week. Stuff like that, like more little ish buying. I think a lot of the teams that are in the fighting for this playoff spot could benefit for, or just buying for like a younger type player. You don't need to always buy for like,
The superstar.
yeah, you don't need to buy Dalvin Cook, Derrick Henry every time. Like if you want to go all in, you can, but why not try to make your team just a little bit better for the week to try to get that win to push you over the edge?
Yeah, I also think it's interesting, again, when you look at stuff, what I kind of like to do is when the playoffs start, I kind of look back to the moves they made and like, did this team make changes to get here? And did the team that maybe missed, did they not do enough?
Yeah,
Like maybe Zach makes in the playoffs over Evan. You say, well, Zach did go add Mixon, who helped him down the stretch, and maybe Zach makes a move. Or could be the opposite. Like, did Zach made these moves, but it actually hurt him in the end because this guy did pretty good. Something along those lines. So
yeah. I think last year was a huge example of that. Ethan was like, "Oh, my team's." I don't think if we ask anybody in the league who's the best team, the championship team last year, anyone's saying Ethan. Ethan though was like, "Oh, I'm pretty competitive. He's in the playoff spot. I think he was third in the division, like last team in type thing."
yeah,
Was like, "Yeah, I'll go grab Nick Chubb. Like, why not? I'm kind of competitive. I'll get a really good running back to match with like Jamar Chase, my really good receiver." And then, oh, Cherries, this guy got hurt. Oh, this guy got hurt. Oh, like this guy underperformed, and it's like now he's in the championship and won. Like, obviously, I think it's tough to look at like a Jasmus team and be like, me adding this average-ish running back guy, adding James Robinson for a third to my team to help with like a RB2 spot is going to help me beat Jasmus. But I still a lot of time left. Who knows if like an injury happens? If like one of those RBs goes down and a receiver like just misses time with something and then someone has a bad game, it's like Jasmus could easily just fall out of the playoffs.
that's very true. Yeah.
But I think it is intimidating looking at like a Jasmus team and being like, me adding something small isn't going to help me compete with against that.
You never know, but it definitely does look daunting, especially when you're looking at that bracket and you see the Jasmine at the top, and you're just like, oh fuck.
Yeah,
Then again, we all thought Cherry was just gonna go right through last year, and he didn't.
yeah. Lost in his first playoff game, so
Yeah.
to Jasmine. So
I think it was to Ethan, right?
one of them
I thought Ethan played Cherry and Jasmine played Trevor.
maybe.
Who
But I
knows?
think everybody thought it was going to be Trevor versus Jasmine, Trevor versus Cherry in the championship, and then neither made it there.
And then it was Ethan versus Jasmine.
Yeah, there's been a lot of times James dominant all year one, loses in his first playoff game. Like there's been so many scenarios of that. Once you get to the playoffs, it's
I think
literally a week by week.
only two of the seasons that we've had has like the really big favorite made it to the championship and won, which was
My 2019,
2019
and Cherry's
you.
2020.
and Cherry's 2020. On the price of buying and selling, Griffin asked us, is Jamison Williams the best asset for a rebuilding team to buy right now?
And I think it's definitely one of them.
I think there's a case.
Like he's not going to be like if you have your own pick and stuff, he's not going to be adding points to your team. Might come back for like a few last weeks of the season, but I think he was one of the best receivers in college. Was a first round pick in the NFL. Was a first round pick in our league. So it's like you're basically getting the equivalent of like a first round pick, and then you already know who the players and what team they're going to be on. So, yeah, I think he could be a really good receiver in this league. And Griff obviously fighting for that one seed and for a championship. Not necessarily going to help him this year. I think we could definitely see a trade like that. He did say he wasn't going to force it, and I think that's obviously smart. But
Yeah. It. I was actually considering making an offer, and I still might for Jamison Williams. I think he would be good. Just be like, hey, I'm not good till next year. Don't have a pick in this draft, but maybe if I get Jamison Williams, something to look forward to next year. That's not hoping a second pans out or one of my six thirds. Um, I don't know. I think a couple teams have now jumped in the fray that probably have better assets to offer than I can, but we'll see if I can get something done.
yeah, a lot of teams have shown interest, it seems.
Yeah. And I think our last question, which is a really good question, is who do you think is the best team ever? This current Jasmus team or 2020 Cherry?
I'm going with 2020 Cherry.
I think for the moment I'd have to agree. I think that was more rounded, well-rounded team, especially at tight end. Maybe quarterback shores up if Fields keeps playing out of his mind like he has been. Um, but I mean, I definitely see a more well-rounded team in 2020 Cherry, but this year's Jasmus, I mean, the wide receivers, Tyreek Hill, Cooper Kupp, Stephon Diggs. I don't know if there's been a wide receiver core in this league better than that.
Yeah, I think that's definitely fair to say. Just looking at this Cherry team, it was ridiculous. Uh, Brady, Dalvin Cook, Kamara, Tyreek Hill, Devontae Adams, Chris Godwin, Travis Kelsey, Christian Kirk was there. Like Laviska was there when he was actually having some
Success.
good games. Robbie Moore having some good games was there. This is when like James White was still the pass catching back there. Marvin Jones was still good. Like there was so much stars on this team. I obviously he made it through the whole season healthy too, which was a big deal. Kind of the same boat as like where Jasmus is in right now, where you look here, maybe not the most depth at the positions, but it's like when your stars are putting up, combining for so points. I think he was averaging more points a game. He scored 218 in the championship.
Yeah.
Like, what?
Is that the most in league history, 218?
I think so.
That was in a championship, too.
A championship game.
Yeah, I think both teams are really good. I lean a lot more 2020 Cherry, but hey, maybe Jasmine shocks us and like breaks 200 every single game for the rest of the season.
Yeah, Trevor or Cherry had Cooper Kupp too.
Yeah,
and it is funny that now Cooper Kupp
Tyreek Hill
and Tyreek Hill are both on that dominant
Jasmus team. Maybe there's a correlation there. You wanna be good, get Cooper Kupp and Tyreek
Hill apparently, but yeah, I think we'll look obviously towards the end of the year if Jasmus still keeps putting up like 160ish points a game. Will he remain like where they'd be really even? If he falls off a little bit, puts up a few like, I think Trevor said Cherry only went under 160 like twice all year.
That's crazy.
And Cherry did have a loss, so I guess if Jasmus goes undefeated, that's the
record, maybe not the star power.
Yeah, I don't know.
I like how we're trying to justify, like, can't we call Jazz's team bad? Not right now, no, we can't.
Yeah. We'll definitely look back at this at the end of the year, unless, like, Jasmus loses the next 5 straight, then I don't think we will, but, yeah. And then I do have one more question.
All right, let's hear it.
Kind of a question statement. When you look at our whole league as a whole, do you think people are too eager to sell? Because the second, like, I think I'm also, like, a part of this. I think most of the league is, but it's like teams are a game out of the playoffs or in the playoffs, and they're like, yeah, I got to sell. And it's like, I think there's something to wanting to get out before a player loses value while their value's high, trying to capitalize on that. But there is also something about like winning, but like we've even seen like I think two of the more like active buyers are Griff, even when he says like I'm gonna tear it down and then makes a trade for somebody and then goes all in. And then Trevor's always seemed to be okay with like buying somebody and being like, I'll just sell them later if I need to. But it's like then we look at two of the best teams in league history that are most consistently in the playoffs in there. It's those two teams that are always buying, where it seems like Cherry, maybe we talked about breaking it down too early. Part of me is like, should I sell more? Like, should I sell or should I go in? My whole division's looking at like selling. Ethan, James, Steve are all talking about selling. It's like, is everybody just gonna sell but Jasmus? Like, I
It's tough because I'm in the position where 2 years ago I was the seller, and even right now, I think the people they want that 2020 Zach class. They have 6 firsts in one class, and they run this entire draft class, and it begs the question: like, does that work? So far, I'm gonna go with no.
if we look at the Zach 2020 draft class,
It was like Clyde, Jerry Judy,
yeah,
uh,
Clyde, J.K. Dobbins, Jerry Judy, CeeDee Lamb, Cam Akers, Henry Ruggs, Antonio
boy.
Gibson, Keyshawn Vaughn, Joe Burrow. Like, he definitely got a ton of
things.
things. Like, CeeDee's obviously really good. Burrow's a good QB. Judy's good.
Henry
Clyde and
Ruggs is lighting up the prison league right now.
yeah, but like those three RBs, it's all like, eh.
Yeah,
Like, and then you'll look at Griff, who just had like 2 picks.
that was like
And
Jefferson.
Bought during the year Jefferson and Jonathan Taylor. And it's like, oh, he walked out. Or he had a second, too, where he got Pittman. And it's like, Griff might have got the best 3 of the top 5 guys in this draft class
Yeah,
with, like, just 3 picks. Where Zach had a swing with 6 firsts, a few seconds, and walked away with 1 top 5 player.
who was James's third round Devil Magic player?
James didn't have it this year. He had Darrington Evans, KJ Hill.
Okay,
This third round was gross.
pretty sure I took Gronk because there's like no.
Eno and Gronk.
Eno worked out.
Yeah, but I don't know. I think I'm also still like putting myself in that group of people who are like, man, I should sell. Saw me sell a lot, and it's like I sold Diggs, and it's like, man, I like to have Diggs. So Chubb, did I sell Chubb to her? Like, if I have Diggs and Chubb right now, my team's looking a lot better.
I think,
But it's
it's a slippery slope. I'll say this because you want to capitalize on value for guys like even right now. I know I'm not in the playoffs, so if I was to sell a Devin Singletary or a Michael Carter, or even like what I did with Montgomery, like they're not going to help me. They might not even have a job next season.
obviously I think it's different selling in like a your situation or like a Matt situation right now, or like the situation Cherry's currently in, where it's like you're completely out of the playoffs. Well, not yet,
Not
but
yet. There's a chance. All right,
it's very close that you three are completely out of the playoffs come
next week.
next week, if not that 2 weeks for sure. So yeah, why hold someone that is going to help you win this year and then maybe not in the future for like what is kind of the point of keeping that on your team? Why help you win now when you don't need to win now, when they're not going to help you in the future,
Yeah,
when it could help someone right now and you could get an asset that can help you in the future? But like a lot of these like fringe playoff teams, I don't know exactly where I stand on it, because I still think that there's teams that were fringe playoffs 3 years ago, maybe bought, maybe didn't sell and just kind of held their team, and then that kind of hurt them in the long run.
I feel like in your division, James, Steve, and Ethan are waiting to see which one sells first. Like they're waiting for to get some separation, and that's just not happening right now. So like, all right, which team blinks first, and which team is like, all right, fine, we'll buy.
Yeah, it seems like everybody doesn't want to be the one that buys. They're just like they're like
They're like, I need a reason to sell, and I'm not getting it right now.
yeah, they want someone else to go buy so they could be like, all right, I'm gonna dump my team. But I I don't know. I think it's just an interesting thing where most of the league seems like they're constantly looking to sell, and that could show that there's value there for the people buying because the other thing that makes it hard about this is what I was thinking about is like, okay, Steve's selling, James is selling, whoever's selling, and it's like, okay, but all these other teams want to sell, so it's like you're not buying,
I'm not gonna buy Aaron
Matt's
Jones.
not buying,
Cherry's
not buying, and it's like, okay, the James, Ethan, if Steve's buying, no, I'm probably not buying Aaron Jones, like, and then is Evans kind of on that brink of like also maybe selling, but also maybe buying. So it's like,
So your options are pretty much Zach, Griffin, Trevor, Jasmus.
and I think between all of those teams, they have one first and like 3 seconds. So like they don't really have anything to buy with because they already bought.
Yeah,
So it's like, why would Griff get rid of a young player that's getting him points for an old player that'll get him points? Like, I think it's tough with all the when everybody's selling. It's like who's going to be the one to buy, and could there be a market for someone to step up and buy and be like, I'm the only one that's going to take it, so I don't need to offer a ton instead of getting like a bidding war. I don't know. That was my average rant of my
The
thought
state
at
of
the
the
end of
sock
every
league.
episode. That I feel like I always ask a question and then just talk about it for like 3 minutes. But yeah, that was my one this
I'm
week.
fine with it.
So that's all I have.
That's what we wrap up today. Adam and I are gonna go hit the links. We'll tell you how it goes, and we'll see you next week for week 11.